Hello, welcome to AI in Action. My name is Maurie. I'm here with my husband, Jim, and we are going to actually talk about something tonight that you probably don't expect us to talk about. Now, we are a AI podcast. We talk about artificial intelligence. We talk about education. We talk about, bigger fish to fry. Rural America. So we do talk about a lot of things, but tonight we're actually going to talk about what is the smartest thing that you can do for your child that probably has absolutely nothing to do with a new technology.
Yeah, we're not eliminating technology, but we are talking about new technology, which is what AI is.
Correct. So there's a lot of popular podcasters that are out there right now, and they've been having this discussion. And I know you've been listening to, Nate Jones and some of the other people.
I listen to lots of them, yes.
Lots of them. And I do too. You constantly send me text messages if I'm traveling or going to be on the road. You start sending me YouTube videos to listen to in my car, which, by the way, we're going to have to get a better YouTube subscription because I can't skip an ad while driving 70 miles an hour.
Forgot about
going
that.
down the interstate.
And it gets stuck. It won't skip on its own.
Exactly.
It just stays there.
Exactly.
So think about that.
I've been getting a lot of ads. So there's all of these discussions about the future of education with artificial intelligence. What's this going to look like, for future generations? And you and I have our own opinions on it.
Well, one of the things that bothers me is that everybody talks about how education has to change for AI. It's like, what AI is going to do to education. Education has to change for AI. And that particular attitude has always bothered me because it implies that we're not doing anything right now. And I don't agree with that. So I know you always keep a list of questions. So where do you want to go from here?
So let's talk about that.
Talk about learning.
What is learning? Where do you learn? It's our opinion that learning happens at the friction points. We've said this several times before. And that is not just, in an educational environment. I watched my 3-month-old granddaughter roll over the other day because she had hit a situation that she wanted something and she wanted it so bad that she struggled to get to it and therefore made herself roll over.
Have you ever taken something away from a 3-year-old and put it on a higher shelf?
They'll do whatever they can do.
They are the most creative people trying to get to that thing.
Exactly.
Yes, it happens at the friction
point.
points.
That friction point is where learning happens. It's like all of a sudden you're like, okay, how am I going to fix this? I've got to figure this out. How am I going to make this happen? I've got to make this happen.
Yes.
And a lot of the times, technology specifically has really taken the friction or the struggle out of learning.
I spent 20-something years, 25 years in the technology business. Technology business is oriented around, first of all, around selling to business. And second of all, around removing friction.
Repeat that, because I think that's really important. And it's something that's always happened in educational fields. A technology company does not make a product very often specifically for education.
No, they don't.
They make it for businesses, and then they shoehorn it into the educational environment as a secondary thought.
And there are education companies out there, but even those companies, they'll do software for education. But most of the time, the hardware, they have businesses, even the smart boards. I saw them in businesses long before I saw them in schools. Smart projectors, things like that. There's more businesses than there are schools,
right.
and businesses tend to have money. So it is my opinion that there's two things. First, it's designed for business. Second, it's designed to remove friction. The problem is that's not the way humans work.
Okay.
So, but there's this tendency to throw out the baby with the bathwater when it comes to how learning currently happens, how it happened for our generation. So one of the things that I've done with our son who's in college, because he's got a really tough semester, is I took everything I learned as a STEM major. And
that was a struggle.
Well, it was for me because I spent a long time doing it. I can go through whole stories about, how I wasn't prepared when I went to college and all this other stuff. But I learned a lot, and I have ADHD, which I didn't know at the time. So I had a lot of adaptations based on that. But what I did learn is kind of a system for learning. How do you learn stuff? And I jokingly named this for my son. I call it PCSD instead of PTSD. But the idea was I never tried to remove friction points. I put them in whenever I
On
was
purpose.
long before AI, because I was doing this long before AI. I put in friction points. I called it stress testing. The S in PCSD is stress testing. And basically it's preview, construct, stress test, debrief. And I won't go into all the details of each one, but the stress testing part, or each one of those parts, when it comes to our son, I put AI into it. Why did I do that? Because how many hours did you and I spend trying to find the tools I needed to stress test and, to make sure what I knew was what I thought I knew?
Right.
And you can't take that struggle away, but you can give yourself better tools to put the stress in where you need it, and a tutor to help you there. And that goes back to that Bloom's taxonomy thing about kids having a personal tutor.
The two
So
sigma,
I had all that in mind.
study.
I had all that in mind. And of course, he's going in the military. So I also was talking a lot to an AI about the military's way of learning. So I folded all of what I learned and what the AI could help me with, and put it all together into this PCSD. But it's not about removing friction. But it's also not focused on technology.
Right.
It's focused on learning.
Well, what I have found that you are doing with this, and we will talk about this more in the future. And we're kind of waiting. We're kind of waiting for the data. Kind of waiting for the data.
I pilot everything.
We're piloting with our son. What I think is interesting is the way that you utilize the tool to help you find the points in which the friction naturally can occur for you to make sure that you've learned something.
Yeah, it's a way of testing the friction. And I can tell you, we got our first piece of data back.
We did.
And his first test score was 40 points above the class average. And, I can't take all, he is a smart kid. I can't take all the credit for it. But he said this has helped a lot. And we've been refining this tool that we've created to put in this, what I call strategic friction points. We've been doing that ever since we started, even before the semester started. But anyway, so I don't want to sidetrack on your first question.
That we would like to say is the smartest thing that you can do for your kids might not have anything to do with technology. And for us, one of those things is make sure they're still struggling while learning. Make sure they're still struggling. Now, this is something that parents have been trying to take away from kids well before AI, well before technology. I can remember sitting at the kitchen table and helping the kids make the poster board or helping the kids color, the charts and all this stuff. It is a parent's
It's a natural tendency.
It's a natural tendency to try to make it easier for your child than what you had when you were in school. And I think that sometimes we have to kind of turn away a little bit from that natural.
Let them struggle.
Let them struggle. Let them struggle. So the next thing that we were going to talk about when it comes to non-technology is a lot of people have started making comments about how rural America, living in a smaller town, might have an advantage over kids that are in the city when it comes to learning.
Well, I am a believer that learning not only happens at these friction points, but I've also been a big believer in this idea that if you're not interested, my own personal experience, if I'm not interested in something, I'm as dumb as a rock.
Yeah,
I don't learn.
That is not your personal experience. That is all kids' experience. I was in the classroom.
I'm talking about as an adult
years.
as well.
And I'm the same way. If I am not interested in something,
it's hard to learn. And throw ADHD into that, where you have a hard time focusing anyway, and it's a recipe for disaster. And that's one of the reasons I struggled so much whenever I was in high school and when I went to college, was because I had to find a way to make myself interested. The advantage, we're talking about rural schools, is there's so many opportunities for what most teachers like. Some hate it, but project-based learning. Mm-hmm. Go outside. And there's a lot of opportunity. I mean, I can think of, we did it when we had your class. I mean, you took the kids on field trips they couldn't have gone on if they lived in the city. They wouldn't be able to go to Enchanted Rock with, 3D cameras and all the other stuff that we did. So so stop seeing the rural as a disadvantage and see it as advantage. Now, one of the things that the technology companies have convinced everyone is that you have to have the money to buy more technology. I don't completely agree with that. Well, first of all, let's look at Chromebooks. We have so many of those now. A Chromebook is a crappy laptop. It's really not that great
I agree.
it's not that great of a tool, but it works for the one thing that it really needs to be for anything more than anything
Testing.
is testing, because now testing, which by the way, in my personal opinion, we shouldn't have high stakes testing at all. But if we're going to have it, I don't see any reason why we shouldn't have had bubble sheets in the first place.
Right.
I don't think
go into online testing.
I don't think a keyboard, again, I'm a STEM major. So I tend to look at a keyboard as something that's not really very useful to me, because most of the math and science I had to draw diagrams and I had to draw pictures and I had to work math equations. These kind of things don't lend themselves to keyboards very well. That is one of those points, though, where AI can help.
Mm-hmm.
Because now you have the ability, because we've done it, to take a picture of a board with equations and stuff on it, and the AI ingest that and actually understand it. So in this sense, AI, we talk about it all the time. It needs to move from the center to the edges.
Correct.
It's too much in the middle. And I'm a tech person. I have 2 degrees in technology and 40 years of technology experience one way or the other. I still don't think that it should be the center of the classroom.
I agree.
But that doesn't eliminate the need to learn how to use it.
Right. I mean, we are not saying let's go back. And I jokingly have said this a couple of times. We need big chief tablets and number 2 pencils. Mm-hmm. But that is not the world that the kids are going to be going into.
And it's a disservice for you to make that decision.
Correct. So I 100% agree with you that the technology needs to not be the focus of the classroom. Mm-hmm. It needs to be on the peripherals. It needs to be something that is integrated seamlessly into the classroom.
Seamless and ubiquitous.
Yes.
It needs to be in a way where you don't have to arrange everything around it.
Correct.
And there is nothing wrong with pencil and paper.
Well, no, there's not.
There's nothing wrong with a dry erase board. But that doesn't mean that you get rid of the technology. If we put our money as a society into making technology less obtrusive and more oriented toward the education, for what we spend on some of the dumbest things we spend money on nowadays, for a fraction of that with government financed funding for some of these companies, they could develop stuff that's really better for learning. Mm-hmm. And as I was talking to you about it today and ranting and rambling on about the classroom that I wanted to build, one of the things I said is that in many cases, the technology way you want to use it in the classroom is exactly the opposite of the way Silicon Valley wants to design it.
Instead, why do you think that is?
Because it's made to remove friction. And we just said, how do you learn? You learn at friction points.
So they automatically assume that technology should just make things easier.
Correct. That is the design. Nobody who designs technology goes, you know what? I'm going to design something to sell you that's actually going to be hard to use. Now, they manage to do that quite often because stuff is hard to use, but not in the way that's learning.
Right. One of the things that I've been hearing a lot is cognitive offloading. And you and I actually had this conversation a little while ago, because I think we have different definitions of cognitive offloading.
Yeah, mine is a little more subtle than yours. Yours is a little more binary, I should say. To you, if I'm doing cognitive offloading, I'm literally putting it over there. That's very good agentic thinking, by the way.
Thank you.
You're talking about AI and agents.
I've been around you way too long.
But I tend to see more of a subtlety where I could offload 40% of it or 50%. And I treat, maybe I'm wrong about it, but I tend to treat, even now with agentic coding tools and stuff, I treat them more of I'm going to offload some tasks to you, but not all tasks. I also like to learn the stuff.
I think the problem we're going to run into about this, and the argument that we're going to end up having, is that if I am a 16-year-old student,
yeah, I'm going to lose that.
I have the ability to cognitively offload something.
I'm going to give it all.
I'm going to give it all away. I'm going to, and that's why Einstein AI came out.
Yeah.
And I believe last I saw it had been removed
from Canvas.
From Canvas.
And what is Canvas?
It's a learning management system that has like classes that you have. Okay.
It's a big one.
It's a big one.
A lot of colleges use it.
They had discovered that they could take whatever class they were taking or whatever modules they were having to go through, and this Einstein AI would do every bit of it.
Well, and
every bit of it.
We found, even before AI, we found kids that had these online tests that they were taking. The people that had created the test didn't make it to where there was a penalty for getting it wrong.
Right.
So they would just go through click, and get it wrong. And then they would write, then it would help them tell them what the right answer was going to be.
Correct.
So by the time they were on the third pass of the test, they made 100.
Right.
So as you've pointed out about 1 million times, cheating is not new.
No, it is not. I was having a conversation with someone that's about 10 years older than me that made a comment that they went all the way through college and bought every one of the essays they ever turned in.
Well,
that they never wrote an essay.
You and I are Gen Xers. You were talking to a baby boomer whenever he said that. And even the boomers were cheating's not new. This has been around a long time. Right. Because it's natural. It's human nature to take the easy path.
So let's talk about what it is that we should be doing. So what we need to be doing as somebody who is raising the next generation, which by the way, it's not us, because now our generation is raising the next generation, that generation.
Yeah, we made some mistakes, but we did okay.
I think it's important for kids to understand the penalty of cognitive offloading.
Okay, so what is important? What do you need to keep?
The skill that is going to define the next generation is going to be, you need to know what it is that you do know. You need to know, I understand this. I can do this.
And you need to be able to articulate it. That's the big trick.
Communication.
Articulation, clearly articulating. This, again, not a new problem. That's why it bothers me so much when they talk about redoing everything like it needs to be thrown away and done from scratch. I could get into a long story about why the Japanese cars got so much better than American cars. And it had to do with incremental improvements versus designing something new every time. You continuously throw out the old stuff and you forget that old stuff had value. It needs to be supplemented, not
supplant.
Yeah, not supplanted. So when you talk about the ability to articulate, when I was working as a design engineer, we had a system to get people to give us what they wanted. You're in front of a customer, because I did marketing as well. I was an apps engineer and I did marketing stuff as well. And I would sit in front of a customer and we start talking about what they wanted in the product. Mm-hmm. Very rarely could they clearly articulate it.
Right. They could say what they don't want.
We learned they know what they hate. They don't know what they like.
Right.
So give them something, anything, which is a great use for vibe coding. I wish vibe coding would have been used more for that and focused on that than trying to make actual products out of it. Vibe coding is today's answer to what we used to do with PowerPoint slides. We used to sit in front of them and we would try to create a slide deck to show them what it could look like and maybe a little demo, but the tools to make these demos, it was a lot more complicated.
Correct.
So what you ended up with is an iterative process with a customer. You give them something you know they're probably going to throw darts at, you let them throw darts, and then you iteratively improve it. Mm-hmm. That process isn't going away. It's just now gotten faster because of AI. But if you don't want to generate a whole bunch of slop really fast, you have to be able to articulate clearly what you want and the process for creating it.
So part of what we need to be teaching is know what you know and how to communicate what you know.
And what have teachers been trying to do forever?
Same
thing. The only time you and I argue with teachers about it is the way they want to measure it. They're very fixated on measuring it by writing it down on a piece of paper.
No, there's a lot more way to measure than
and
that.
I'm not saying that's not a bad thing. Don't throw that out. I'm saying that you need to supplement that as well.
Because that has become too easy to offload.
Well, it's even if you go back and you've made jokes about taking the blue books and putting blue books back where they took tests in their blue books. There's teachers that are going to do everything with pencil and paper. It's more like I'm going to start with pencil and paper, but I'm going to move it along the spectrum to where I'm utilizing AI tools to incrementally move me along the spectrum to where I started to where I ended up. And so you need to have an augmentation that doesn't exclude the use of pencil and paper, but it doesn't stop there. And typically, writing a paper on a topic is certainly, you could argue, a way to articulate it. And I don't think it's a bad thing. What I think got carried away was, you and I talked about this in previous podcasts, it went from, I want to get you to clearly articulate your ideas, to I want to make sure that you follow the format that I've got to turn this in the most the tiniest precision.
Here's the rubric. And if you stay within this box of this rubric, you're guaranteed an A. If you give me 5 reasons why this happened, then that's going to get you an A in that section.
It doesn't even matter if they're good reasons.
It doesn't even matter if it's good reasons.
Well, and it's also, I'm talking about those DM.
Oh, the APA formatting, the MLA formatting.
Is that,
It's still there. It's still out there, and it's
but
horrible.
again, when you beat on a kid for that and you think you're doing them a favor,
You're not.
All you're doing is making them hate learning.
Yeah,
and
you're
hate
not.
writing.
Okay, so the other thing that I think is really important when it comes to that skill is something, you need to know what you know and how to communicate what you know.
Articulation.
You also need to know what you don't know.
That's hard.
But for
How can
me,
you know what you don't know if you don't know it?
But for me, that's one of the most important parts.
I think of it more as knowing where my boundaries are.
That's what I'm talking about. If I have a skill to where I'm like, you know what? I don't know how to do this. And then I'm able to make the decision myself as to whether or not I need to learn how to do something new, or whether or not I need to get somebody else to hire somebody, do something as, this is a skill after you get out of school. It's like whenever we bought this really old house. We bought this really old house and we should have sat down, and I'm like, oh, we're going to remodel it. And just because I know how to paint a wall
doesn't mean you know how to repair a window.
Doesn't mean I know how to rebuild a window.
I know, it's been almost a year.
And so there's so much that humans need to accept the limitation and then know when to offload and when not to offload.
Well, and again, when to share. I mean, I make decisions like this every single day. But even when you start talking about school, because I talked to our kids about it when they were in school, how long should you struggle with a problem until you finally decide you need help?
Okay, now you, that is forever.
Well,
you get wrapped around the axle.
But you have to think about that. Part of that is my ADHD problem, because what I do is I'll struggle with it for 15 minutes. And I'll make a list and set it. Even when I'm doing code development stuff now, I have what I call a devlog. I use Claude Code. I have Claude Memory. I have memory.md, and I have devlog. And I put in there, okay, I don't know what to do from here. I'm stuck. Here's where we are. And it'll put all that in the devlog. And then the next time I start up,
you know where you're at.
But that persistence, that raw stubbornness, part of that comes from the ADHD problem, because I'm always afraid. I've got so many things going on at once that I want to bump them along. So I stubbornly stick with it. And I was never taught or told when to give up.
Right.
When have you met how do you recognize the edges? Because they're not sharp.
And to me, that's
not
a
sharp
skill.
edges.
That's going to be a skill that's going to define.
Unfortunately,
the
it's
future generation.
also an incredibly difficult skill to teach, because most people don't know their limitations. And my dad would argue, my dad always say, if your 100% isn't good enough, then you better make it better.
Yeah.
So in other words, if you're not, and I had a boss that said that, if you said, I don't know how to do this, all he heard was, you're the wrong person for the job. Because in his mind, what he was asking you to do was doable. It didn't matter if it was completely not. What mattered to him was that he needed that done. He had decided that needed to be done. And if you can't do it, then you're the wrong person for the job.
I just thought about the movie The Devil Wears Prada whenever she told her to get the non-published manuscript of Harry Potter book.
It's a good example of it.
Yeah. It's like it was absolutely impossible, and then she ended up being able to do it. But okay, so
what else is on your question list? I know you
talk about was not just educators, but parents.
That's not a popular topic with a lot of parents. Because
how are they going to figure this out?
Well, first of all, we've talked about many times having, parenting classes, not on how to parent, but how to utilize technology as a parent. And I think it is a learned skill. I think AI changes the equation quite a bit. I think it's more important than ever that parents understand what AI can and cannot do and where the boundaries ought to be for their kids. If you're a parent that says we should just never use AI, then your kid's going to get left behind. If you're a parent that says I want to do everything with AI, then your kid is also going to get left behind. There is a middle. There always is. And it's easy to sit here and say, well, parents' problem is they keep sticking iPads in front of their kids or phones in front of their kids or TVs, which is what our generation did, as the way of learning and entertainment. And that's true. My dad was a blue-collar mechanic. My mom worked as a waitress, and she worked in cafeterias. She worked at Walmart. We were blue-collar. My parents came home, and they were tired. They'd been on their feet all day. But they still took the time they bought me books. They bought me chemistry sets. They
bought you things that they knew would entertain you because you were raised like a feral cat.
In many ways I was, but they also emphasized to me how important education was. And we've got a whole system now going on in the world where people have decided, again, they try to be binary about it. College is no good. It's not worth it. Education is not worth it. You can learn just as much on your own. You can homeschool your kid. I don't agree with that, because I think the lack of learning opportunities that you have when you school your kid, I don't think you can make up for it on your own. My parents tried very hard, but if they would have tried to homeschool us, it would have been impossible.
Right.
And my dad was a smart guy. I mean, he didn't finish college, but he started. My mom didn't even finish high school. So I was one of those kids that would be considered to be a high risk kid.
Oh, absolutely.
And because my family was poor, my parents are blue collar, they were, I was a latchkey kid in many cases. But they tried, and parents are going to have to do the same thing. It's still important to read to your kid. It's still important to sit down at the kitchen table and help them with their homework. The great thing about AI is it might be able to help them with their homework in a way you couldn't do before. Mm-hmm. We did the same thing I have a lot of math skills, and you have great writing skills, but we had some gaps. And so we found tools to help fill those gaps, but we participated in the process.
Yes, and it's difficult. It was difficult to participate.
It was difficult.
And I think that, and I'm going to step back real quick to the rural school advantage. I do believe that there's a lot of advantages of living in the country, because people just view it as it's safer. I can put my kids on a bike and tell them to go down to the park a mile away, and stuff like that. You feel safer.
Yes.
It might not be safer, but you have the perception of it being safer to live.
Just by sheer numbers of people, it is still safer.
Just by the number of
except for rabbit skunks.
Yeah, rabbit skunks are.
It was for us.
But what I'm getting at is that it's still economically difficult to be in rural America. Mm-hmm. There's not enough, income coming in a lot of times. And so you definitely have a lot of the students in the school system who are latchkey kids.
Well, they're like I was. They have blue collar parents.
Might not even work 9 to 5. I mean, their parents might work night shifts.
My mom did.
Yes.
I used to sit in a booth at a restaurant while my mom was serving tables as a waitress. I sat there and did my homework in a restaurant. Our kids did that.
Nate Jones, one of the podcasts that we were listening to kind of on this subject, he made a comment that a long time ago, or not really a long time ago, but it's always been said, it's going to take a village. It's going to take a village. And he made the comment that in the age of AI,
said that too.
Yes,
didn't you write a book that said that?
In the age of AI, it's going to take even more of a village.
But the great thing about AI is it can be part of the village. In other words, you can have agentic AI that can help you legitimately. We got our kids, because we had the money, but we got our kids a subscription to Wolfram Alpha, because some of the math, even as good as I was at math, I hadn't done a lot of it in a long time.
And this was before AI.
This is long before AI. We got it but we didn't we taught them not to use it before they had tried on their own. But they used it as a tool to help them work through something if they got stuck. Again, back to that question. What are the boundaries of what I know, and how long should I stay there looking over the edge going, I'm never going to get this? I mean, at some point, it's like looking up the answer in the back of the book. You don't start there, or you shouldn't. But sometimes you just I don't know what to do.
I remember.
I am stuck.
I remember doing it.
How many times did we make trips to bookstores to find textbooks with solutions, right, so I could work out problems having the solution, knowing that I got it. It was a confidence builder. And confidence is an important part of learning. As you learn more, you get more confident. But something has to reinforce that confidence. What AI is, the biggest struggle people are going to have with AI is it is different than putting your kid in front of a TV. It is different it's even different than the video games. It's different than a lot of things. And in some ways, it's more dangerous to leave your kid alone with this tool. First of all, they can get real lazy. But second of all, I mean, there's websites out there that have
nothing but companion AI.
Companion AIs. And that is, I think, we have enough loneliness and enough disconnect in the human world. We don't need more of it.
I'm going to be talking about that in May, actually, at one of the region centers about companion AI. So
if you're a parent, participation is more important than ever.
Yes.
AI makes that a bigger point. However, AI is also a fantastic tool as a parent for you to utilize to help your kids with that stuff that you struggle with. Mm-hmm. Being in a rural town is not necessarily a disadvantage. Yes, there are economic disadvantages. And if you want to have us come to your rural town, you can we are for hire. We will come out there and explain to you how you don't have to buy the most cutting edge technology out there and still give your kids the technology to give them the advantages they need. If you're a teacher, don't give up on it. Don't throw AI out because you think it's evil. But if you're also, don't rely on it too heavily. It's the analogy of the teachers that used to stick a video in for their kids to watch.
You used to say all the time, everything in moderation,
including moderation.
Even moderation. So on that note, my name is Maurie. I'm here with my husband, Jim. Thank you guys so much for watching and for listening in. We hope y'all have a marvelous rest of the week.